Let's join at the front table. Beth, please provide the overview.
Madam Chair, Senate Bill 551 modifies the definition of single-use checkout bag to no longer include a reusable plastic checkout bag and prohibits retailers and restaurants as of July 1, 2026 from providing reusable plastic checkout bags to customers. Prohibits a food and beverage provider or convenience store from providing single-use plastic utensils or single-use condiment packaging to customers as of July 1, 2026, and prohibits as of January 1, 2027, a lodging establishment from providing personal health or beauty products in a small plastic container, plastic wrapper, or any other single-use material, unless requested.
Please begin.
Thank you so much. Vice Chair David Brock Smith and members of the committee, for the record, I'm Janine Sollman. I am the state senator for Senate District 15, and that includes areas of Forest Grove, Cornelius, Hillsborough, and the Rock Creek area of Western Washington County. And well, I'm here because we just have to have a little bit of a talk. So I understand that breaking up is hard to do. And I have said this before, and I will say it again, but because it just bears repeating. But when a relationship is toxic, you gotta cut it free. And it's past time that we have this conversation about the need for us to break our dependence on plastics. And while this is a fun little way of kicking this off with this conversation today, it's no laughing matter. And to know that each of us has a credit card's worth of plastic sitting in our stomachs right now. Microplastics are everywhere, in the air that we breathe, the clothes that we wear, and in our waterways, and in the fish and the animals that some of us eat. This is a toxic relationship, and it cannot be sustained. Plastic does not go away, and there is nowhere to put it. We recycle only about 9% of the plastic that we produce, so let's just stop producing those single-use plastic pieces in the first place. I come before you today in support of Senate Bill 551. This policy is about working towards our goal of zero waste and breaking free from plastic. Senate Bill 551 will limit the disposable products handed to consumers daily and stop producing unnecessary plastic items that are easily replaceable with a better and more sustainable alternative. The bill expands the ban on plastic bags. It requires all restaurants and retailers to provide only paper bags at checkouts. And it limits the plastic cutlery and single-use single-use condiments and such, like ones that are offered to go, by making it available only upon request. It's not a ban on the stuff, but it's like, I want some hot sauce, please give it to me. That's all. We need to reduce the waste of plastic cutlery that often ends up at the bottom of the bag, waiting to be thrown away. Additionally, Senate Bill 551 phases out single-use hotel toiletry bottles, replacing them with refillable options to prevent waste. To move this in the right direction towards mitigating the environmental impact of single-use plastic in our community. By supporting this bill, we endorse a sustainable future for our youth and maintain a cleaner and safer ecosystem. I hope that after hearing the advocates today, that we can agree that our dependence on plastic needs to come to an end. It's time to break up. I know habits can be hard to change, but a conscious effort from all of our parts can make a difference. And I've seen that in our grocery stores. When you're there at the checkout, the people that are lined up bringing their own bags, it's just second nature to them anymore. When you're in your car, some people may not be like me, but it is such an easy thing to have your own utensils right in your car that you use if you want to grab something to go to eat. DoorDash, you're usually dashing that to your office or to your home. So you have silverware already at your ready. So these are just about eliminating those items with easily replaceable items. The future of our planet's health and the health of our bodies are depending on it. Colleagues, I urge your sponsorship and your support of Senate Bill 551. Thank you.
Vice Chair Brock-Smith and members of the committee, for the record, my name is Celeste Mayfrin-Swango. I'm the State Director of Environment Oregon. We're a statewide member-based environmental advocacy organization working for clean air, clean water, open space, and a livable climate. And I'm here to testify today in support of Senate Bill 551, we're lovingly referring to as Beyond the Bag Ban Bill, as another opportunity for Oregon to end its toxic relationship with wasteful single-use plastics. In recent years, Oregon has become a national leader in reducing plastic waste, but of course our work is not over. And I want to thank Senator Sollman and you all for continuing to consider policies to reduce single-use plastics and really challenge us all to think about ways that we can reduce unnecessary waste. Since I had the opportunity to share a much longer presentation with you all in this committee on the impacts of plastic pollution on the environment, I don't want to take a lot of time discussing that today, especially since I think there's a lot of people who are signed up to testify. But in short, plastic pollution has become a pressing environmental issue with ever increasing production of disposable plastic products outpacing our ability to deal with them. And as a result, plastic is ending up in our environment, especially in our oceans, where they can harm wildlife and damage ecosystems. So as Senator Sollman said, we really need to stop producing and using so much plastic, especially the plastics that are designed to be used just one time before they're thrown away. And so to do that, we need to just dramatically reduce the amount of those wasteful products that are handed to consumers every day. And so Senate Bill 551 really prioritizes reducing the use and waste of those disposable items that are intended for just one use, that are not accepted in curbside recycling in Oregon, and are destined to be trash after one use. So specifically, as Senator Sollman said, it would get rid of all plastic bags at grocery store checkouts and restaurants, add utensils and condiments to our existing straws upon request law, and then phase out small single-use plastic toiletries at hotels and other lodging establishments. This bill would bring us in line with actions already taken by our neighbors to the north and the south, and many other states that have taken action to reduce plastic pollution. I've also submitted a coalition letter with over a dozen environmental organizations for your review in support of this bill to OLIS, encouraging you to pass Senate Bill 551 and help Oregon break up with plastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify on this bill.
Mr. Plybaugh.
Vice Chair Brock-Smith and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. For the record, my name is Charlie Plybaugh. I'm the Oregon Policy Manager for Surfrider Foundation. And on behalf of our network, our greater membership, and thousands of Oregon supporters and volunteers, the Surfrider would like to express our strong support for Senate Bill 551, a bill to help curb our consumption and waste of single-use plastics. We know very well the impacts of single-use plastics in our environment, waterways, and oceans, and Senate Bill 551 addresses some simple behavior changes across retail, restaurants, and the lodging industry, where some of the most ubiquitous and wasteful consumerism of single-use plastics occurs. At the business level within the restaurant and lodging industry, we know these changes only stand to save businesses both money and cut waste. Working beyond the bag ban through policies that help evolve our often unnecessary consumer behaviors is an easy and cost-effective opportunity to reduce single-use plastics in Oregon. I'll try not to repeat what my colleagues have already shared here, but just for some orientation, Surfrider Foundation is a grassroots environmental nonprofit organization, and we're coastally facing. We have a very strong relationship with our oceans, waves, and beaches. Our chapter network comprises thousands of supporters and volunteers throughout the state, organized amongst our 5 distinct coastal chapters in Oregon. And our plastic pollution initiative includes extensive ongoing coastal beach cleanups, local policy advocacy, partnerships with researchers, and business-forward programs to reduce plastic waste, such as our ocean-friendly restaurant and our ocean-friendly hotel programs. It is through these efforts our volunteers and Oregon network of chapters and members are working in your local communities in Oregon on single-use plastic pollution, from the cleanup level to the consumer and business level prevention. We have learned through this deep community organizing and programmatic work here in Oregon with the restaurant and lodging industries, again, that these efforts make good business sense and are what consumers want and stand to save these industries money. I'll reiterate that we're a coastal community and we have a different relationship with single-use plastics. This is what we refer to as the plastic season on the Oregon coast. Everything that comes downstream from the increased stormwater and storm surges that we get, we will find knee-deep to ankle-deep plastic accumulating in certain areas. Certain areas like Otter Rock Marine Reserve and Devil's Punch Bowl State Park. I've provided a picture of what this looks like in your packet for you to help compel you to how this is impacting us downstream. And I ask just, you think about going to your park or your kid's ball game, which is what these beaches represent to us, and having to dig out plastic and organize cleanups to rapidly respond so that you can play the way you'd like to play and your children can play the way you'd like for them to play. We know this stuff's working its way upstream. We also eat fish and consume and extract from our oceans, and this is starting to impact, as we know, our own bodies. So as more and more of our policy interests faces the production end of plastics, we continue to chip away at consumer and business opportunities that make good sense. Senate Bill 551 is one of those policies that takes some simple direction at the business level and is a win-win for business and the environment. We encourage your yes vote on Senate Bill 551. Thank you.
Colleagues, any questions of this panel? No?
So I fail to understand the concern for a very useful substance that's been widely used for many, many years. Referred to as plastic, there are many different forms of plastic. You know, it's a polymer. So there's many different kinds. Even one bottle, the cap may be different from the bottle. So it's, when you're worrying about littering, I understand concerns to pick up littering, but polymers are everywhere. I notice your utensils those are wood, right? That's also a polymer, which we trip over in the woods all the time. There's wood everywhere. So I don't understand the animosity toward plastic simply because it is so ubiquitous. It's been found to be so useful that it is so ubiquitous. And the data I have seen just indicates, yes, we see it in the environment. We have a littering problem just like we will with paper bags. And that's different than just demonizing one substance. So I'm worried about where this is going. And of course, it inconveniences people when we do this.
Please.
Yes. Vice Chair Brock Smith and Senator Robinson, I hear your concern because, you know, looking at material. But when you think about the paper bags and you think about bamboo reusable items that you can use, we're talking about, and as you saw in the presentation, about microplastics. And as microplastics break up in our system and are consumed by our fish and in the air and then those into our body, those aren't broken down within our body, and they are creating public health issues inside. And so there is you know, our desire for this policy is to make sure that we look at the items that we know have a replacement that can be used. So whether that is the paper bag or whether that's a reusable bag that someone gets 1,000 uses out of, and such, whether that is, you know, whether that is the utensils, or when you're at a hotel, you're seeing more and more hotels. As we were working this bill, we heard from the industry saying, actually, hotels are moving in this direction to get larger containers put inside of their hotel rooms so that they're refillable and they're not just breaking, you know, using that and then throwing them in the garbage. So
I have to go testifay in another
okay,
meeting, but thank you very much.
I'm glad that you clarified that it wasn't that I, you know, offended you deeply. We'll chat soon.
Anyway, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I appreciated the senator for bringing up that those were wood utensils, and having the timber capital of the world, we love using renewable wood.
Wow.
So my question is the extended producer responsibility that was passed a couple years ago, they're within like a year of getting to a place where these are going to be, you know, these bags are going to be able to get into the recycling mix. Why not just wait? Why ban them? Why can't we, you know?
I got this and then you can. Vice Chair Brock Smith and members of the committee. The good or the bad news is there is still plenty of the beast to feed the EPR program. There is still plenty of plastic that we have in our society that will benefit, be able to be collected within our curbside and such. The problem is that curbside plastic film has not been able to be collected at your curbside. So it does require people to go to depots, or as I take plastic film, I have Ridwell come and pick mine up, or New Seasons. It does require more of an effort. And so it's really not, there still will be plastic because Ridwell doesn't collect any single-use plastic bags from my house. And there still is enough in there that they are utilizing. So EPR, while it will benefit many different types of products, remember, it's the reduce and the reuse, then the recycle. The reduce and the reuse is where we need to focus on. We shouldn't be thinking, well, we have a program and we need to create more waste so that we feed that program because it will be recycled. It's the first two R's that we need to pay attention to, because unfortunately in this world and this time, there's not 9% of our plastic bags and such are being recycled now, and there are options for people. They're just not taking them. So thank you.
Thank you. And one last question. Sure. So I didn't see any in the testimony that I could find. Have you talked to our pulp and paper folks about this? And how are we going to be? I mean, again, trees are a renewable resource. So have you talked to them about the implementation? My understanding is California is doing something similar. Yeah. And so where are we on a timeline? Are we going to have a pulp and paper crunch? And
no. So I'll mention, and then anyone else can jump in too. Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. We have been, the thing is when you work with folks on these bills, and I've often called it is village work. You need to make sure that you have people at the table that will potentially be in opposition of something or questioning, and then in order to make a policy better. So we did bring paper and pulp into this conversation. At first, the first rendition of this bill was trying to figure out, okay, we can offer paper, and then we can figure out a reusable kind of a definition that people could still have another option at the check stands. But then in all honesty, we just figured we wanted to make this really clear that when an Oregonian goes to a check stand, they either have in their hands something that they're bringing from home, or they're going to grab a paper bag and utilize. I use that's what I put my trash in, a paper bag. And so we wanted to just be able to be very clear that restaurants and stores, it's paper. And so we did offer, and California does have this within the work that they're doing. So we offered a 6-month extension beyond California for implementation, and folks seemed very happy about that. Now, believe you me, we've had a lot of folks talk about, could you do this? Could you add this? Could you raise the fee of the paper bag? The good news is when we passed the original bill, it was a floor. And so as you see that some of our businesses who are feeling this, they have raised that beyond 5 cents. You see 10 cents now to cover the cost of the bag. But that isn't something that we needed to change in this bill because it was already set, and it's in the power of those businesses to make that change. I hope that answered your question. I don't know if anybody else needs to
no, it did. Thank you.
add on. Oh.
So if there's nothing else, then can we call up Priscilla and Asher and Brenna? And then unfortunately, in order to finish our agenda, we'll need to start limiting to 2 minutes of testimony so that we can get to our other bill and make sure that we can get done by time.
You're a hard man.
Whoever would like to start.
Awesome. Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock Smith, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Priscilla Moreno. I am a junior at the University of Oregon studying political science and legal studies. I am from Los Angeles, California, specifically from the San Fernando Valley, located in the middle of several Superfund sites. After living in Oregon for 3 years, I call this place my home, and I care deeply about our natural spaces. I always tell people that coming to Oregon felt like seeing a tree for the first time. And when I moved to Eugene, I was most looking forward to training for my 7th marathon. As a first-generation student, I never imagined myself in a place like Oregon, running along the Willamette River, being a duck, and living 800 miles away from home. Unfortunately, one of the first things I noticed during my training was plastic pollution along the river. I cannot understand how there was not more being done to protect the beautiful spaces that I was experiencing. I thought of my life back home, and I thought of how Eugene could become like it, a place where health issues related to our poor environment is the norm. And motivated to do something about this, I joined OSPERC students my freshman year when we were organizing for a statewide ban on polystyrene, one of the worst kinds of single-use plastics. Since then, I have been involved in registering hundreds of students to vote, winning the right to repair, and continuing to work on moving Oregon beyond plastics. This year, I'm running our Better Bag Ban campaign, and one of the things that has stuck out to me was seeing the broad support we have in our Eugene community. On campus, over 1,300 students have signed our petition, and the University of Oregon's student government passed a resolution in support of the bill. And in our community, we have built support from small businesses across the city, met with 4 city council members and the mayor, and 4 of our state representatives. I have had the opportunity to work with students who are passionate about protecting our planet, including our coordinators Asher McKinnon and Kieran Moses. Members of the committee, this Valentine's Day season, we are asking you to bag a better future for your constituents and break up with plastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ooh, timing.
Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock-Smith, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Asher McKinnon, and I'm a junior at the University of Oregon, studying political science and global studies. Growing up in Eugene, I've always had a deep appreciation for the beautiful natural spaces of our state, and as I've gotten older, I've realized how privileged we are to enjoy them. I've been lucky to experience places like Crater Lake, the Willamette River, the beaches of Florence of my entire life. Unfortunately, even our most pristine habitats are being impacted by plastic pollution. I've seen pollution clogging our waterways, littering our forests, and tarnishing Oregon's legacy as a leader on environmental protection. Despite the obstacles, our community has inspired me to continue working for progress. Coordinating our grassroots efforts to tackle plastic pollution in Oregon, I've seen the widespread sentiment against wasteful plastics. Our volunteers understand the pervasiveness of pollution and the direct, straightforward steps we can take to prevent it. The basis of our work here is to support the public in their interest for a sustainable future, which begins with our grassroots organizing. To that point, the overwhelming majority of the students and community members we speak to strongly support Senate Bill 551 as a direct measure to protect our planet. The students at the University of Oregon agree that nothing we use for a moment should go on to harm our health and our environment for generations to come. But oftentimes these concerns are taken for granted or dismissed for the sake of quote-unquote convenience. I've had many students tell me of times they were handed a bag despite their insistence that they didn't need it, and that it ultimately went to waste despite their best efforts to reuse it. We even get thick plastic bags given to us when we buy our textbooks at the campus bookstore. The plastic issue is often deflected onto the individual consumer, but this shouldn't be the case. Oregonians need reassurance that their representatives have done all they can to protect our natural spaces. Some I speak to point to the Sustainable Shoppers Initiative of 2019 and feel discouraged by the evidence of plastic pollution still apparent around them. However, they're always excited to know we can do more, and they're willing to do their part in protecting our planet. To paraphrase Chair Sollman, it's time to end our toxic relationship with plastic pollution. Time.
Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock-Smith, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Brenna Stevens. I'm a campaign associate with OSPERG. We are a statewide citizen-based organization representing thousands of Oregonians across the state. We speak out for the public and stand up to special interests on problems that affect the public's health, safety, and well-being. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in strong support of SB 551 to help eliminate unnecessary plastic waste. We've known for a long time that single-use plastics are wasteful and bad for our environment and our health, which is why the Oregon legislature made the decision to pass the Sustainable Shopping Initiative and other bills to reduce plastic pollution in recent years. But our work isn't over. There are still too many single-use plastics in our lives that we don't need. Whether it's the small plastic toiletries at the hotel that we don't use, the spoon, fork, or ketchup packets that get automatically thrown into the takeout bag, only to be put into a junk drawer because we feel too guilty throwing them away, or the plastic grocery bag filled with other plastic grocery bags stashed away somewhere in your home. What are we saving these all for? These plastics, while they may seem minor, really add up. They pollute our communities and our environment and threaten our health. Plastics last for hundreds of years and can slowly leach toxic chemicals into the water and soil when they end up in our environment and our landfills, which most of it does. Nationally, less than 10% of plastic actually ends up being recycled, and it takes centuries to degrade. Even then, it never really goes away, but instead breaks down into microplastics, which have been found at the top of the highest Alps, in the deepest parts of our ocean, and in our own bodies. We can live without these single-use plastics. In fact, we should. Nothing we use for one shopping trip, one meal, one shower should pile up in landfills, litter our streets, clutter our cabinets, and pollute our landfills for generations to come, especially when it's just unnecessary stuff. I urge your support of SB 551, and thank you for your time.
Okay, first of all, you guys all nailed it on the timer.
It's a debate club?
Was amazing.
Is it debate? I mean, really,
know.
every single one of you, 2 minutes.
We kept going. Can you believe this?
We cannot do that.
Do you give lessons?
Yeah.
in testimony?
Great job.
He's speaking about me, by
Yeah.
the way.
Wait, I'll get you all smiling. Ha 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 ha! Yay! Okay, here we go. Thank you. With that, I'm going to call up the next panel. We have Tom Eagleston joining remotely, and Sean Miller, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, and you'll be after Tom. There's Tom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock-Smith, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tom, or Thomas Eggleston, and I'm here today representing the Association of Oregon Recyclers in support of Senate Bill 551. AOR is a waste and recycling trade association with over 200 members representing businesses, local governments, nonprofit organizations, and individuals working together to achieve a more sustainable system for handling our waste products in Oregon. AOR supports Senate Bill 551 because it advances waste reduction and reduces the impact of plastics on our environment and in our member facilities. Plastic bags are a common contaminant in recycling programs, and the inclusion of bags in our member facilities gums up the equipment, creates hazards for workers, and creates costly delays at recycling facilities. SB 551 will foster more waste reduction and reuse. We believe that less plastics in the environment and less single-use plastics in our economy will drive more reuse, reducing plastics in the environment and driving more thoughtful consumption. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Please. And then on deck would be Alan Journay, I believe it is, online. Thank you.
Great. Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock-Smith, members of the committee, Sean Miller. I'm here today on behalf of the Northwest Grocery Retail Association, and in support of the amendment for Senate Bill 551 that's still forthcoming, and appreciate the chair's work and as well as the advocates in the prior panel working with the industry on how to implement this. And our issue has mainly been making sure that there's not a supply shortage in the future. And so I think from our standpoint, we look at again from a business perspective, our costs from our suppliers on the plastic versus paper. Plastic is about double the cost of paper, and so from a business perspective, it's a no-brainer. However, we want to make sure that the option's available for customers, and so in the amendment that's forthcoming, we want to delay that implementation to January 1, 2027, because California goes into effect January 1, 2026. And when that goes into effect, it is going to take a lot of the paper bags to fill that need down in California. And we want to make sure that we're not doing it around the same time, and that the pulp and paper industry can really ramp up that production to handle not only California, but then our implementation following that. And so our ask is that the committee is just watch that to make sure that we, again, paper's our only option, and we want to make sure that there isn't a supply shortage. And so that is the request that's in that forthcoming amendment. And so I will wrap up, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you having us today, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your testimony. Alan, please provide your testimony online, and then I have, I'm sorry, it's Tara Brock will be.
Chair Sollman and members of the Senate Committee on Energy and Environment, I'm still Alan Journay, and I'm still with Southern Oregon Climate Action Now. Again, I summarize written comments, this time in support of Senate Bill 551. When confronted with reusable grocery bags, most folks concerned about our environmental crisis would likely express support, but everything is not always as it seems to be. In the case of reusable plastic bags, evidence suggests that the bag must be used over 7,000 times to compensate for the increased energy and environmental cost of its manufacture compared to the flimsy disposable plastic bag. Regrettably, studies on the reuse of these reusable plastic bags in California reveal the bags are just not being reused. Rather, it seems the customers think that supposedly reusable bags given to them by stores are actually disposable single-use bags. As a result, these bags join the train of plastic waste that threatens wildlife and breaks down into toxic microplastics that are increasingly turning up in oceans and, amazingly, human brains and poop. One solution would be to ban reusable plastics bags completely. Another, as contained in Senate Bill 551, is to prevent stores and restaurants from giving these bags to customers. Instead, the bill demands if customers want these bags, they should pay for them. Even though the charge is but a nickel, this might lead customers to value the bags a little more and indeed reuse them. Furthermore, the plastics industry is responsible for 4 times more greenhouse gas emissions than the airline industry, and at the current growth rate, by 2050, the plastics industry could account for 21 to 31% of greenhouse gas emissions. For these reasons, Southern Oregon Climate Action Now supports Senate Bill 551 and encourages the committee to accord it a due pass recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe Tara's online, and then on deck will be, is it Siren Moses? Yeah, please go.
Thank you, Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock, members of the committee. My name is Tara Brock. I'm the Pacific Legal Director and Senior Counsel with Oceana. And I'm here today to express our strong support of Senate Bill 551 on behalf of our thousands of members in Oregon for tackling plastic pollution at the source and implementing 3 common sense policies in our state. And these policies are widely popular. Just last week, Oceana released the results of a new nationwide poll showing that 81% of U.S. voters support reducing the amount of plastic that is produced, with widespread bipartisan support for requiring companies to reduce single-use plastic packaging and foodware. Plastic's versatility and durability is what has caused it to become so prevalent and persistent in the environment. And there's a difference between a naturally occurring polymer and a plastic. A plastic is a synthetic or semi-synthetic polymer. It's precisely the synthetic nature of this material that makes it dangerous. And 99% of plastics are made from fossil fuels, not naturally occurring materials. In fact, if plastic were a country, it would be the 4th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. An estimated 33 billion pounds of plastic enter the marine environment each year, equivalent to approximately 2 garbage trucks worth of plastic being dumped into the ocean every minute. And you heard some of those impacts from my colleagues on the panel earlier to our Oregon beaches. Plastics have been found in Pacific oysters and rockfish off our coast and in all waterways that we have tested. The science is clear. We need to make and use less plastic. For these reasons, we request your strong support of Senate Bill 551 to help Oregon break up with plastics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Sollman, Vice Chair Brock Smith, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kieran Moses, and I am a junior at the University of Oregon studying political science. I am the Grasstops coordinator of the Better Bag Ban campaign run by Osberg students. As part of my work with the Better Bag Ban campaign, I've had the chance to speak with several small business owners in our community. We felt it was vital to get the input of our local businesses since they're so important to our city and Eugene. In almost every interaction I had with small business owners and managers regarding the Better Bag Ban, they voiced strong support for the bill, and many signed on to a letter of support in favor of the ban. They are already committed to doing everything they can to ensure that plastic no longer harms our environment, and that is evident. Passing the Better Bag Ban is another step towards achieving this aspiration. I got involved with Osberg this summer when I canvassed for the Plastic Pellet Free Waters Act, which is a federal bill aimed at curtailing microplastic pollution. In this experience, I got to interact with a diverse range of people here in our community. These members of our community had varying reactions regarding the climate crisis and the urgent issue of plastic pollution. Some felt frustrated by our inability to come together and address the issue, and some were scared as to what the future was going to hold for our environment. But despite these varying views, almost all knew we had to do something to address the problem. As a result, many of these folks were willing to provide ongoing financial support in order to help combat plastic pollution and protect our environment. My experiences with canvassing to fight plastic pollution and working on the Better Bag Ban have illustrated to me just how many people in our community share my motivation to protect our green spaces here in Oregon, and how far they were willing to go to prove it. This is why passing SB 551 is so important, not only because it will prevent plastic bags from continuing to harm our environment, but because it will show our communities here in Oregon that we're fighting for them and in their interest. So again, as Valentine's Day approaches, we hope that you join us in breaking up with plastic and support Senate Bill 551. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your testimony. We did have Courtney Neron signed up, but we'll ask that she submit her testimony in writing. And with that, thank you so much for folks coming to testify in our rapid testimony that we did. So I'm going to close the public hearing on Senate Bill 551. I'm going to open us up for a public hearing on Senate Bill